Swayze.
There is.
And in the first half of the movie, it's like fun. It adds a bit of like levity, and they're like, oh, here we go. We're having a great time. We're robbing banks. But by the end, it was almost like an ironic, like, it gave the opposite feeling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's what the Surfing USA here was like, this is a fun song. Surfing's a fun thing. This is not a fun moment.
This is a very deadly moment.
Yeah. So, question for you.
Let's hear it.
The original. Oh my goodness, my cat.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does that. The original choice wasn't C. Thomas Howell.
Wow, who was it?
It was going to be. It was Rob Lowe was the first choice.
I like.
And so, do you think it would have been?
Oh man.
Do you think it would have been too similar to Youngblood?
Okay, I think C. Thomas Howell added more of a. He's very good in this movie. I know we haven't really covered him much. I mean, Swayze's always great, and I'm pretty sure he has a 9-pack in this movie. But C. Thomas Howell added a vulnerability to it. And as much as I like Rob Lowe, and I think he did a good job in Youngblood, The Outsiders as well, he just, or Rumblefish, Outsiders, Rumble, whatever. But I liked C. Thomas Howell had a very interesting, above his years, sort of, he was very sage. He was an old soul, very vulnerable. And I like that in his character because this movie would have been tragic if, for instance, C. Thomas would have played this as a naive kid who just looks up to Swayze.
Right.
But C. Thomas, I think, was smart enough to play it as a world-weary kid who had seen... Oh, so you remember that flashback scene, which they go back to show Bill Paxton actually played their dad, which is pretty amazing. And his name was Dave Blue White, and he plays their dad. And you can see just the rough life that they had, where they never left anywhere. And he worked a very dangerous job, Dave Blue. He was like a coal miner. And so you have this guy that is doing this really hard work. He's very angry, but he never moves. So he's doing yes, he's providing for his kids, but he's also risking his life in the process to do it. You know?
That comes back when Annie Potts is talking to a mourning Patrick Swayze, and he says, "My dad risks his life every day.
Yeah.
I'm doing the same thing. I'm just doing something I enjoy."
Wow. And then I like the look she gives him, though. I think he's been so selfish with his pursuits. And he's probably left carnage around the world because people know about him. How many people have tried to surf with sharks with him around?
Well, and again, it was in the era of so like now in 2019, everybody knows everything, right? There's but there's like the 80s myths. Like you probably heard when you were a kid, like if you pop rocks and Coke, if you drink them, your head will explode. I knew a guy who did it. Or like, double bubble gum has spider eggs in it. My friend knew a guy who did. And so there was these like very consistent myths and lores around going, but nobody could prove anything.
Nothing.
So when you heard like there's this team of people that just go from town to town surfing with sharks, but the myth becomes bigger than it actually is, and you get the copycats.
Yep. And I mean, we never hear about that in the movie, but there has to have been copycats.
Yeah. No, there has to have been. See, I think that would have been the perfect sequel, is a sequel without any of this cast, but it's just like the copycats. It's the other guys are like, oh, I heard this, that last year these boys were here swimming with shark, and so then they try and start up a new Sunset Shark Club.
It's like The Shallows. That was a direct, like a spin-off. The director loved that movie so much growing up, he made a movie about a lady going surfing and getting stuck with a shark. I don't know if you know about that.
I didn't know that. I do love that movie.
So good. And okay, how old was Swayze in this movie?
So it was 86.
So he was 34 when the movie was made. 33, 34, maybe, when it's 33 when it was made, 34 when it was released. But his character, I felt like, was 27.
Yeah.
He looked, the good thing about Swayze in the 80s, he was 35, but he could play at 26.
Right. Yeah, he could play any role, really. And like if you think about it, nothing he can't do.
So I guess I have to get into his psyche as a 26-year-old, not 34-year-old Patrick Swayze. Right. So this kid's 26. We don't hear, there's not much backstory aside from that one flashback. These kids are we learn about them by their actions, not their There's no expository dialogue, which I really like. You know, we learn about C. Thomas Howell being a good kid because he shares his food with Swayze. And no dialogue is shared. You know, and their friend Pete Waters, played by Brad Savage.
Yep.
They really looked out for him too. And I liked when they stopped for gas.
Like they kind of pure adopted him.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. They picked him up somewhere. I don't want to know where, because that'd be weird.
We get the little insight into the father who, like, again, working in the coal mine, risks his life every day for nothing. And so you get these two kids that are like, risking your life is just what we do, but we want to enjoy what we're doing. So I think they're living their perfect life. Like this is their they've arrived. This is what they want to achieve.
And I guess they do make money. They do have sponsors in this. So it's enough to keep them moving around from town to town.
Well, it's like they go and then they put on their, like they kind of alluded to at that the beach party there.
Yeah.
That, you know, they would go and they would do tricks and jumps and dares and they would kind of not grift but kind of like make their money that way as well, right?
Mm-hmm. And when the paparazzi were there, remember C. Thomas Howell put that hat on Patrick Swayze for Body Glove?
Right.
That was a good character moment, and to show that they get sponsorships.
Right, and the look on Swayze's face where he's like, "This is the thing about my life that I hate the most." Like, get this. Like when the camera was gone, he threw that hat down. Like he just didn't get this hot. This isn't who I am.
He's like Andy Samberg from that song. I threw it on the ground.
Exactly, he threw it on the ground.
I don't care about your money.
Right? Exactly.
Now. I didn't like that about him, though.
Did you think?
Yeah, what?
Okay, did you think that the dance scene between Annie Potts and Swayze was a little bit shoehorned in there?
There was, okay. I noticed.
Because this is the year before Dirty Dancing.
I have some notes here. And how many hip swivels do you think Patrick Swayze did during this dance scene? I'll give you 3 guesses.
I want to say 8.
Keep going.
Was it 12?
Keep going.
16. It had to be an even number with the way
43.
you were doing that move.
Ask Megan.
I guess so. I guess they could just
like. So, first and foremost, I have a lot of respect on him because the amount of camera angles. So how many? They had about 8 different cameras rolling on him during this dance scene, and he just kept hip swiveling.
So do you think it's the thing where they had 8 cameras on him and he did 10 hip swivels and they just played it from different angles?
Yeah, you know what? That's a good. Yeah, they could have done that. But I heard he didn't want to do a full like Kevin Bacon Footloose dancing in the sand because of his ankles.
Right.
Because we know sand is notorious.
Right. I thought the angry surfing montage was like the Kevin Bacon moment of the movie. It was kind of like the punch dancing.
He kept slapping the water.
Yeah.
So many slaps of water. How many times do you think he and Pete Waters slapped the water? I didn't count that. 13?
It had to be up there. Like it became a thing where it was like they were physically fighting with their anger is what was happening. Right?
It kind of manifested itself into water slaps.
Yeah, and it wasn't them, it wasn't the shark that killed their friend and brother. It was the ocean itself. That's what I got from that.
And so they're punching the ocean.
Yeah.
But they needed that breakthrough to stop hunting the shark.
Yeah, that was the thing where they came to. I feel like it was again, like you said, a lot dialogue wasn't there, but these moments were, and you had to kind of read between the lines. But I think they came to this like cathartic moment of this is just what we do. And then he said to him, like it ends with the waves. When the waves are done, it's over, and we can't be angry about this because the waves are over.
I know I'm going back to the dance scene, but all right, there's an extra in there. And I want to know if you noticed this extra in it. I think, knowing you saw this extra.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, and the dance
was it the
move.
guy with the acid wash jeans?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
What dance would you call that?
I would call that. Do
you know?
I think I'd call. Sorry, that's a great question, Mark. To name a dance move as you're watching it.
I feel like he was doing the tug of rope, like, so he's the first person when you're doing tug of rope. And so you're kind of pulling hand over hand, but he's part of like the winning group that's running backwards, if that makes sense. But he's in one spot the entire time.
Yeah. So I would call it like the the moon rope because he's kind of doing a moonwalk kind of thing.
Yeah. He wasn't getting much purchase on the sand with his feet.
No, he wasn't. It wasn't something. So when Michael Jackson did the moonwalk,
yeah, within
8 days, every kid in America could do it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody tried to do the moon rope.
Nope, no one did the moon rope. And okay, so you're a production designer. You're the director of this. Simon Windsor directed this, who would go on to great things. I like. Okay, I don't know why they chose that beach, because they filmed in California, correct? Yeah, they filmed in California.
Yeah.
They should have found somewhere with tighter packed sand for that beach party, because while watching all the kids partying, that was some deep sand.
Yeah.
And I think that's why he did so many hip swivels, because your feet remain planted in the ground.
Absolutely.
I'm doing this because I just went walking. I just went to Florida and I had to step in that squishy sand, and I've tried to run in it. Man, that's tough on your calves.
Now the thing about that though is that Swayze was so adamant about it, because it was I think the third or fourth day of shooting, he did roll his ankle in the sand.
Oh yeah.
And that's why Don Swayze had to come in and shoot some of his surfing scenes.
I noticed that. A different kind of haircut. The hair hangs differently.
Yeah. And I'd say Don wasn't quite as cut as Patrick.
Yeah.
He's still in great shape, but he's just not quite as cut.
Swayze has an 8-pack in this one.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I don't even think he worked out back in the day. I just think Swayze was Swayze.
Yeah.
And man, his surfing though. Do you think that's why he? There's no research in this movie. Even the IMDb page, look it up. The Sunset Shark Club IMDb. You'll see no trivia. But I think by him being the brother figure in this and a surfer and spouting all this dialogue about. I mean, a lot of this dialogue is definitely from a first-time script. There's one time when he wrote, "When I surf, I don't talk. When I'm talking, I'm not surfing."
Right.
Which I get. And then he also said, let's see, waves are like time, and time is the tide. He keeps saying this stuff. So when they were hiring for Point Break, they're like, we need a surfer who can be a mentor. And I think this got him the role. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I didn't put those two connections together, but I think you're absolutely right. I did like the moment where she said, "You're awfully quiet when you're on the water," and he says, "I'm only ever quiet when I'm doing two things," and then he kind of winks at her.
What are those two things?
Well, I think one is surfing and one is something else. I think that was his very subtle flirting with Annie Potts there.
I mean, it's a movie, so it works.
Yeah. So again, that's a line. If you said that, Megan would never talk to you again.
Never. But Swayze said it somehow that didn't make it seem like he was a serial killer.
Right.
Because that's a serial killer thing to say.
So he has what I call the Brad Paisley effect.
What?
So you know Brad Paisley, the country singer?
Yeah, he's friends with Peyton Manning.
He is friends with Peyton Manning. That guy says stuff in songs that nobody else could get away with, but he's so unassuming and adorable that people just it's okay, it's just Brad Paisley. It's fine.
I love those songs, by the way.
But he has a song I want to check you for ticks. If anybody else sang that song, it would be this is how dare but it's just Brad Paisley. Yeah, it's still Brad Paisley.
That's not a song.
Yeah, ticks.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is. Look up the lyrics right now. You'll blow your mind.
I don't know, man. I don't know if I want to do it. I want to check you for ticks.
Wow. Swayze has that same appeal.
Yeah. I don't know, man. This movie, I don't think people realize how much heavy lifting he had to do in this film. A script that was written in 2 weeks, lots of physicality. He had a rolled ankle in this.
Yeah.
He had to have an 8-pack. He also, he got better than the surf instructors 2 days into training. Then he took over the surf instructing job because this was so low budget.
Well, they just fired them.
Yeah. They're like, well, we obviously don't have to pay you. We're already paying Swayze. See ya.
Right.
And, so, I'll tell you though, C. Thomas Howell, he looked very, in that movie Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, do I know?
Where,
did you say funky butt loving?
Yeah, Thomas Ian Nicholas throws the baseball, very goofily looking, but it goes over 100 miles an hour. Right. That's the way it is in the movie, just his mechanics. C. Thomas Howell's mechanics were kind of like that, but I believed his surfing because he actually did surf.
Yeah, and again, he looked like a guy who was really good at his craft, but didn't learn the conventional way.